Ladies and gentlemen, gather round and prepare to be transported into a world of dark ambition, chilling creation, and haunting consequences. Welcome to the timeless tale of Frankenstein, penned by the brilliant Mary Shelley. In this gripping narrative, we follow the journey of Victor Frankenstein, a scientist driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge and power. As he dares to play God, Victor stitches together a creature from the remnants of the dead, breathing life into what should never have been. This creation, both magnificent and monstrous, will challenge everything we know about humanity, responsibility, and the boundaries of scientific exploration. As you embark on this captivating adventure, remember to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a moment of the eerie brilliance that unfolds within these pages. Whether you're a first-time listener or revisiting this masterpiece, your support helps us continue to bring these incredible stories to life. So, dim the lights, settle in, and let the tale of Frankenstein ignite your imagination. Enjoy the journey. Letter 1. In the chilly streets of St. Petersburg, R. Walton begins his correspondence to his sister, Margaret Saville, filled with optimism for his ambitious voyage to the North Pole. Despite Margaret's apprehensions, he assures her of his safety and growing confidence in his mission. The cold northern breeze invigorates him, hinting at the icy realms he eagerly anticipates exploring. Walton is captivated by the vision of the North Pole as a place of beauty and wonders, where the sun perpetually graces the horizon. He dreams of discovering secrets of the magnet and mapping previously uncharted territories, driven by a curiosity that fuels his determination. Walton reflects on his past, recalling how his uncle's library, filled with tales of exploration, sparked his passion for discovery. Though his path wavered when he briefly pursued poetry, his dream of a seafaring life persisted. He diligently prepared for this adventure, enduring harsh conditions with whale fishers and mastering skills beneficial for his expedition. His experiences earned him respect among sailors, and he feels a sense of pride in his achievements. Despite the challenges ahead, Walton's resolve remains strong. He expresses a desire for encouragement as he embarks on this arduous journey, aware of the fortitude required to uplift both his own spirits and those of his crew. The timing is ideal for travel in Russia, and he finds the swift motion of sledges across the snow a pleasant change from the stillness of an English stagecoach. Walton plans to depart for Archangel in a few weeks, intending to secure a ship and crew by June. He ponders the uncertainty of his return, acknowledging the possibility of success or failure. With a heartfelt farewell to his sister, he contemplates the unknown future, eager to fulfill his long-held dream of exploration in the vast, icy expanse. Soon, Walton will face the formidable challenges of his expedition, testing his courage and resolve like never before. Letter 2. In the frozen expanse of Archangel, Robert Walton pens a letter to his sister, Margaret Saville, reflecting on the slow passage of time as he prepares for his ambitious voyage. He has successfully hired a vessel and gathers a crew, noting their courage and reliability. Yet, despite these accomplishments, Walton feels the acute absence of a true friend. He yearns for companionship, someone who could share in his triumphs and offer solace in his disappointments. "I have no friend, Margaret," he laments, craving a connection that goes beyond mere acquaintanceship. Walton recounts his self-education, feeling both pride in his intellectual pursuits and regret for lacking formal schooling. At 28, he feels more illiterate than many younger men, his dreams vast but lacking the refinement and guidance a close friend could provide. Among his crew, Walton finds some solace in his lieutenant and master. The lieutenant, an Englishman driven by ambition, shows a thirst for glory, while the master, known for his gentle discipline, stands out for his noble character. Walton shares a touching story about the master, who sacrificed his own happiness for the sake of love, demonstrating a selflessness that deeply impressed Walton. Despite his longing for companionship, Walton remains resolute in his mission, determined to explore uncharted territories. He expresses a mix of excitement and trepidation about the journey ahead, a venture into the land of mist and snow. His soul is stirred by a love for the marvelous and the unknown, fueling his determination. As Walton prepares for departure, he muses on the possibility of reuniting with Margaret after journeying through vast seas. His hope tempered by uncertainty, Walton's resolve is unwavering, and hints of adventure and peril lie on the horizon as he sets his sights on the unexplored regions ahead. Letter 3. In the third letter addressed to his sister, Mrs. Saville, Robert Walton writes with urgency to assure her of his safety and progress on his ambitious voyage. The letter is entrusted to a merchant ship heading back to England from Archangel, while Walton himself continues to journey through the icy waters of the north, far from the shores of his homeland. Despite the harsh environment, he remains in high spirits, buoyed by the courage of his crew and the favorable southern winds that propel them forward. Walton describes the icy sheets floating by, a constant reminder of the perilous region they navigate, yet notes with some relief that his men are undeterred by these dangers. Walton mentions a few minor incidents, such as stiff gales and a leak, but dismisses them as routine challenges for seasoned sailors, hoping these remain the most significant troubles they face. His determination is palpable as he writes, "But success shall crown my endeavors, wherefore not?" He reflects on the journey so far, taking solace in the guiding stars and his secure passage over the ocean's vastness. Walton's resolve is unyielding as he rhetorically questions, "What can stop the determined heart and resolved will of man?" As he concludes his letter, Walton promises his sister that he will act with caution and prudence, driven by both personal ambition and a desire to reassure her of his safety. He signs off with a heartfelt blessing, his enthusiasm and determination undiminished. As the voyage continues, the uncharted northern realms hold unknown challenges and discoveries that await the unwavering explorer. Letter 4. As the ship navigated perilous icy waters, the crew encountered a mysterious sight, a sledge drawn by dogs, guided by a figure of enormous stature heading northward. This strange apparition, amidst the endless ice plains, sparked their curiosity but was quickly lost from view. Hours later, the ice broke, releasing the ship, and the sailors discovered another sledge adrift on a vast ice fragment. On it lay a European man, nearly frozen and on the brink of death. The captain, Walton, persuaded him to board their vessel, offering salvation from his dire circumstances. Upon the stranger's inquiry, Walton revealed their mission to the Northern Pole. The man's relief at this news was palpable, as he agreed to accompany them. Despite his frail condition, Walton recognized a man of remarkable character beneath the stranger's wretched state. The crew nursed him back to health, though his recovery was slow and fraught with despair. The stranger intrigued Walton with his enigmatic demeanor and occasional glimpses of benevolence. When questioned by the crew, he revealed he was pursuing someone, whom he described as a demon. This revelation piqued Walton's interest, especially when the stranger expressed a shared desire for knowledge, cautioning Walton against the dangers of ambition. "Unhappy man, do you share my madness?" he lamented. Over time, the stranger's melancholy lessened, and he confided in Walton, hinting at a tragic tale of loss and ruin. On August 19th, he promised to recount his story, warning that it was filled with extraordinary events that might sound unbelievable. Despite the stranger's impending fate, Walton eagerly anticipated this narrative, sensing a profound connection to the man who had suffered so deeply. As night approached, Walton prepared to record the stranger's words, knowing that the tale would unravel the monstrous storm that had shattered a once gallant soul. Chapter 1. Victor Frankenstein, a Genovese by birth, hails from a distinguished family with a legacy of public service. His father, a man of integrity and dedication to public business, delayed marriage until later in life. His marriage came about through an act of compassion and friendship. One of his dearest friends, Beaufort, had fallen into poverty and retreated to Lucerne with his daughter Caroline. Beaufort, proud and unyielding, could not endure his decline in status and lived in obscurity, eventually falling ill. Caroline, demonstrating remarkable resilience and resourcefulness, worked tirelessly to support them as Beaufort's health deteriorated. Upon discovering Beaufort's whereabouts, Victor's father rushed to his side, only to find him on his deathbed. After Beaufort's death, he took Caroline under his care, eventually marrying her. Despite their age difference, their marriage was built on mutual respect and deep affection. They traveled to Italy, Germany, and France, seeking to restore Caroline's health. It was during these travels that Victor was born in Naples, becoming the cherished center of their universe. When Victor was 5, during a stay near Lake Como, his mother, driven by her own past struggles, visited a destitute household and was captivated by a beautiful, golden-haired girl named Elizabeth Lavenza. The child, of noble descent, had fallen into poverty after her father's political downfall. Victor's mother, moved by the child's plight, arranged for Elizabeth to join their family. Victor, perceiving Elizabeth as a special gift, developed a profound bond with her, regarding her as his to protect and cherish, and they formed an inseparable connection that went beyond familial ties. As Victor and Elizabeth grew up together, their bond strengthened, setting the stage for a relationship that would profoundly influence their futures in unexpected ways. Chapter 2. Victor and Elizabeth grew up in perfect harmony, their contrasting personalities complementing each other beautifully. While Elizabeth found joy in the natural beauty surrounding their Swiss home, Victor developed a deep fascination with the causes behind these wonders. With the birth of a younger sibling, the family settled in Geneva, where Victor formed a close friendship with Henry Clerval, a boy with a passion for chivalry and adventure. Victor's childhood was idyllic, nurtured by loving parents who encouraged his curiosity. His thirst for knowledge, however, was selective, drawn to the mysteries of nature and the metaphysical secrets of the universe. Meanwhile, Clerval focused on the moral virtues and heroic deeds of men, dreaming of becoming a benefactor to humanity. Elizabeth, with her gentle spirit, provided a nurturing presence, fostering kindness and compassion in both Victor and Clerval. One pivotal moment occurred when Victor was 13, during a family outing to Thonon. Stuck indoors due to bad weather, he discovered a book by Cornelius Agrippa, which ignited a fervent interest in the arcane sciences. Despite his father's dismissive comment, "Ah, Cornelius Agrippa! My dear Victor, do not waste your time upon this. It is sad trash." Victor's curiosity was piqued. He delved into the works of Agrippa, Paracelsus, and Albertus Magnus, captivated by the idea of uncovering nature's secrets. Victor's quest for knowledge took a dramatic turn during a thunderstorm at their Bellerive home. A lightning strike obliterated an oak tree, prompting a guest to explain the phenomena of electricity and galvanism. This revelation led Victor to abandon his former studies, disillusioned by their limitations, and pursue the more concrete discipline of mathematics. Yet, this shift in focus, while bringing temporary peace, was not enough to alter the course set by destiny, which continued to weave its ominous threads around his future. With his mind now turned towards mathematics, Victor unknowingly stepped closer to the path that would eventually lead to his ruin. Chapter 3. At the age of 17, Victor's parents decided he should attend the University of Ingolstadt to broaden his education beyond the customs of Geneva. However, Before his departure, tragedy struck when Elizabeth fell seriously ill with scarlet fever. Despite initial resistance, Victor's mother attended to Elizabeth, ultimately saving her life but contracting the illness herself. On her deathbed, she expressed her wish for Victor and Elizabeth to marry, entrusting Elizabeth to care for the younger children. With a serene demeanor, she accepted her fate, saying, "I will endeavor to resign myself cheerfully to death, and will indulge a hope of meeting you in another world." Her passing left the family devastated, but they found solace in fulfilling their duties to one another. Victor's departure was delayed, but eventually he left Geneva, filled with melancholy and apprehension about the unknown future. His friend Clerval wished to accompany him, but his father forbade it. As Victor journeyed to Ingolstadt, he reflected on his past comforts and future challenges, yet felt a growing eagerness to gain knowledge. Upon arrival, Victor met Monsieur Krempe, the professor of natural philosophy, who dismissed his previous studies as worthless, advising him to begin anew. Though disheartened by Krempe's demeanor, Victor was intrigued by the prospect of modern scientific pursuits. This curiosity led him to attend a lecture by M. Waldman, whose inspiring words on the power and potential of modern science ignited a fervent ambition in Victor. Waldman's encouragement and guidance fostered a burgeoning drive in Victor to delve deeper into the mysteries of creation, setting him on a path that would ultimately shape his destiny. As Victor immersed himself in his studies, he felt a profound transformation within, ready to explore unknown powers and unravel the deepest mysteries of creation. Yet little did he know, this pursuit would lead him down a perilous path. Chapter 4. Victor Frankenstein immersed himself in the study of natural philosophy and chemistry, dedicating himself almost exclusively to these pursuits. The university's scientific community, including Monsieur Krempe and Mum Waldman, supported his endeavors, though he found a true friend in Waldman, whose gentle and encouraging nature contrasted sharply with Krempe's brusque demeanor. Victor's fervor for knowledge saw him surpassing both peers and mentors in proficiency, and he made significant advancements in chemical instruments, earning him great esteem. For 2 years, Victor remained at Ingolstadt, consumed by his quest for discovery. His curiosity about the origin of life led him to study physiology and anatomy, culminating in his obsession with understanding life and death. He frequented charnel houses, observing decay with a clinical detachment that would have been unsettling to most. His relentless pursuit eventually led to an epiphany. He discovered the secret to animating lifeless matter. "The sun does not more certainly shine in the heavens than that which I now affirm is true," Victor declared, overwhelmed by his breakthrough. However, this newfound power brought hesitation. Victor grappled with the implications of creating life, contemplating the complexities of forming a human frame. Despite his initial doubts, his imagination and ambition drove him to attempt the creation of a being of gigantic stature. He devoted himself to this task with an intensity that left him physically and emotionally drained. As the seasons changed, Victor's isolation deepened, and he neglected correspondence with his family, aware of the distress his silence caused them. Amidst his feverish labor, Victor's health deteriorated, and he became increasingly aware of the toll his obsession was taking on him. Yet the promise of eventual success propelled him forward. As his creation neared completion, an anxious anticipation gripped him, foreshadowing the monumental consequences of his ambitious endeavor. Chapter 5. On a bleak November night, Victor Frankenstein finally beheld the product of his obsessive labor. With a mixture of anxiety and dread, he attempted to breathe life into the lifeless form he had painstakingly assembled. As the rain drummed against the windows and his candle flickered weakly, the creature's dull yellow eye opened, and its body stirred with life. Victor was unprepared for the horror of his creation. What he had once envisioned as beautiful was now grotesque, with yellowed skin barely covering its muscles, black flowing hair and watery eyes. Overwhelmed by disgust and horror, Victor fled his laboratory, pacing his room in turmoil, unable to sleep. When he finally succumbed to restless dreams, they quickly turned nightmarish, as his beloved Elizabeth transformed into a corpse in his arms. Awakening in terror, Victor found the creature looming over him, muttering unintelligible sounds. Escaping its grasp, Victor spent the night in the courtyard, haunted by fear and the enormity of his failure. As morning dawned, Victor wandered the wet streets of Ingolstadt, desperate to escape the specter of his own making. Fate intervened when he encountered his old friend, Henry Clerval, whose presence brought momentary relief from Victor's anguish. Clerval, unaware of the horrors Victor had experienced, expressed joy at their reunion. Victor, eager to shield Clerval from the truth and his monstrous creation, invited him back to his quarters. Upon returning to his apartment, Victor was relieved to find it empty of the creature. The brief respite was shattered when Victor's overwrought nerves caused him to collapse in a fit, prompting months of illness. During this time, Clerval tended to him with unwavering devotion, hiding the severity of Victor's condition from his family. As Victor gradually recovered, the arrival of spring brought renewed hope and vitality. His spirits lifted. He expressed deep gratitude to Clerval for his care. Yet, as Victor began to restore his connections with his family, a letter from Elizabeth awaited him, hinting at the emotional ties that still bound him and the shadows lurking in his past. Chapter 6. Victor Frankenstein, recovering from a severe illness, receives a heartfelt letter from his cousin Elizabeth. She expresses deep concern for his health, saying, "You have been ill, very ill," and reveals her longing to serve him during his sickness. Elizabeth updates Victor on their family, mentioning the robust health of his father and the adventurous spirit of his younger brother Ernest, who is eager to join the military. She also recounts the story of Justine Moritz, a former family servant who, after a troubled period with her mother, has returned to their household. Elizabeth's letter is filled with emotion in the plea, "Write, dearest Victor. One line, one word will be a blessing to us," highlighting the family's worry and longing for reassurance. Victor, moved by Elizabeth's words, resolves, "I will write instantly and relieve them from the anxiety they must feel." As he recuperates, his friend Henry Clerval introduces him to the university professors, a task Victor finds distressing due to his aversion to natural philosophy. Professor Waldman praises Victor's scientific achievements, unaware of the pain it causes him, while Monsieur Krempe's blunt remarks add to his discomfort. Clerval, noticing Victor's distress, skillfully steers conversations away from painful subjects. With Clerval's encouragement, Victor immerses himself in the study of Oriental languages, finding solace and distraction from his past pursuits. As he prepares to return to Geneva, delayed by winter, Clerval suggests a walking tour around Ingolstadt. The journey rejuvenates Victor, and he reflects on the positive influence of Clerval's companionship, considering him an excellent friend who reawakens his appreciation for nature and human connection. Victor's spirits lift, and he feels a renewed sense of joy as they return to their college amidst the lively atmosphere of dancing peasants. Yet beneath this newfound happiness, a shadow of past events lingers, hinting at the challenges yet to unfold. Chapter 7. Victor Frankenstein returns to find a letter from his father, Alphonse, delivering tragic news. William, Victor's youngest brother, has been murdered. The letter details the heartbreaking discovery of William's body, with the marks of a strangler still visible on his neck. Alphonse implores Victor to return to Geneva to console Elizabeth, who is racked with guilt. believing her valuable miniature of Victor's mother tempted the murderer. As Victor reads, his friend Henry Clerval notices his despair, and upon reading the letter himself, expresses his deep sympathy. Victor resolves to return home immediately, driven by a desire to comfort his grieving family. On the journey, he is overcome with fear and foreboding, lingering in familiar places until he finally approaches Geneva. Unable to rest, Victor visits the site of William's murder, where a violent storm rages. Amidst the tempest, he sees a figure illuminated by lightning, recognizing it as the creature he animated. Horrified, Victor concludes that this being, this filthy demon, must be William's murderer. Arriving in Geneva, Victor learns from his brother Ernest that Justine Moritz, a family friend and servant, is accused of the crime. The discovery of the miniature in her possession and her confused demeanor have led to her arrest. Despite the evidence, Victor is convinced of her innocence, knowing the true murderer. The family, especially Elizabeth, is tormented by the accusation against Justine. Elizabeth is steadfast in her belief in Justine's innocence, and Victor reassures her, vowing to see justice done. Victor's struggle intensifies as he grapples with the consequences of his creation, his resolve to vindicate Justine, setting the stage for a trial that will test the bonds of love and loyalty within his family. Chapter 8. The morning of the trial dawned with a somber weight, as Victor accompanied his family to the court, where Justine faced accusations of a heinous crime. Despite the gravity of the situation, Justine stood calm and dignified, her composed demeanor a stark contrast to the crowd's hostility. Her innocence seemed evident to Victor, yet he was powerless to prevent the unfolding tragedy. As the trial proceeded, incriminating evidence against Justine was presented. Witnesses described seeing her near the scene of the crime under suspicious circumstances, and a damning piece of jewelry found in her possession further darkened her prospects. Justine, maintaining her innocence, offered a straightforward account of her actions that night, yet the circumstantial evidence loomed large. Elizabeth, moved by desperation and loyalty, passionately defended Justine's character, declaring, "I believe and rely on her perfect innocence." Her heartfelt speech stirred the court, but failed to sway the overwhelming tide of judgment against Justine. The verdict of guilt was delivered, casting a shadow of despair over Victor and Elizabeth. In a moment of profound hopelessness, Victor learned of Justine's confession, a falsehood coerced by threats of eternal damnation. Justine's explanation revealed the unbearable pressure she faced, leading to her coerced admission of guilt. "I confessed a lie," she lamented, seeking solace in the hope of heavenly reunion with the deceased. Despite Elizabeth's fervent promises to prove Justine's innocence, the verdict remained unchanged. Justine faced her fate with resigned courage, offering Elizabeth words of comfort. "May this be the last misfortune that you will ever suffer." As Justine met her tragic end, Victor was engulfed by guilt and despair, knowing his actions had set this chain of suffering in motion. The weight of his unconfessed sins pressed heavily upon him, foreshadowing further torment and loss that lay ahead. Chapter 9. Victor Frankenstein found himself trapped in a tormenting cycle of despair and remorse following the deaths of Justine and William. His health deteriorated as he withdrew from society, haunted by the consequences of his actions. His father, noticing the change, attempted to console him, urging, "Do you think, Victor, that I do not suffer also?" Despite the well-meaning advice, Victor's sense of guilt rendered him unable to find solace. The family moved to their home at Belle Rive, where Victor sought refuge in solitary boat trips on the lake, contemplating the depths of his sorrow and the potential for further tragedy at the hands of the creature he had unleashed. Elizabeth, too, was consumed by grief, reflecting, When I reflect, my dear cousin, on the miserable death of Justine Moritz, I no longer see the world and its works as they before appeared to me. Her words pierced Victor, who bore the secret burden of being the cause of the recent tragedies. Despite her attempts to comfort him, saying, "Dear Victor, banish these dark passions," the weight of his guilt was inescapable. Seeking respite from his anguish, Victor embarked on a journey to the Alpine valleys, hoping the majestic scenery might alleviate his torment. As he traveled through the valley of Chamonix, the breathtaking landscape momentarily lifted the shadows from his mind. Yet, the grandeur of nature could not permanently stave off his despair, and he vacillated between moments of relief and the oppressive return of grief. Arriving at Chamonix, the exhaustion from both physical travel and emotional turmoil finally allowed Victor a brief reprieve in sleep. As he lay in the village, lulled by the soothing sounds of the Arve and the distant rumble of avalanches, the promise of oblivion in sleep was a temporary balm. However, the looming presence of Mont Blanc foreshadowed the challenges that awaited him in the icy heights. Chapter 10. In the heart of a majestic valley, surrounded by towering mountains and cascading glaciers, Victor Frankenstein found solace in nature's grandeur. The landscape, with its icy expanses and solemn silence, provided him a refuge from his grief, elevating his spirit even as it failed to erase his sorrow. "Wandering spirits," he mused, "if indeed ye wander, allow me this faint happiness." However, the tranquility was shattered the following day by a relentless rain and thick mists, which obscured the valley's beauty and mirrored his melancholy. Undeterred by the storm, Victor embarked on a solitary ascent to Montagne Verte, driven by a desire to reconnect with the sublime vistas that once inspired him. The path was treacherous, marked by the remnants of avalanches and desolate pines, yet he pressed on, feeling deeply the burden of human sensibility. Upon reaching the summit, Victor was struck by the sight of the glacier's vast ice field, which stretched across the landscape like a frozen sea. As he stood immersed in the scene's magnificence, his solitude was abruptly interrupted by the appearance of a figure approaching with unearthly speed. It was his creation, the being he had brought to life, now confronting him with a mix of anguish and defiance. "Devil!" Victor cried, consumed by rage. "Do you dare approach me?" The creature, in a display of profound misery, implored Victor for understanding, lamenting the hatred he faced from all humanity, including his creator. "Make me happy," the creature pleaded, "and I shall again be virtuous." Victor's fury was met with the creature's desperate plea for compassion. As the two stood amidst the icy wilderness, Victor's resolve wavered, and he agreed to listen to the creature's tale. With a heavy heart, he followed the creature across the glacier to a secluded hut, where the creature would recount the story of his existence, a narrative that could alter the course of their intertwined fates. Chapter 11. In the depths of a forest near Ingolstadt, a newly awakened creature experiences the world with fresh, unrefined senses. Initially overwhelmed by a cacophony of sensations, light, sound, touch, smell, he gradually learns to distinguish between them. As he explores, he discovers a brook where he quenches his thirst in berries that stave off his hunger. His first encounter with fire is both a revelation and a peril. The warmth delights him, yet the flames also bring pain. This duality fascinates him as he learns to sustain the fire with collected wood, wary of its extinguishing during his sleep. Driven by hunger and curiosity, he sets out from the forest, encountering a small hut inhabited by an old man. The man's terrified reaction to the creature's presence forces him to flee, leaving behind a bounty of food. The creature consumes the remnants eagerly, sheltering in the warmth of the hut. Moving on, he stumbles upon a village where his appearance incites panic and violence among the inhabitants. Driving him to seek refuge, in a humble hovel attached to a cottage. Through a small chink, the creature observes the cottage's inhabitants, a gentle young woman, a melancholy young man, and an elderly, benevolent figure. Their simple, harmonious lives captivate him, evoking in him feelings of longing and admiration. The music played by the old man and the tender interactions within the family stir emotions in the creature that are new and profound. He is both drawn to and pained by the beauty of their existence, a stark contrast to his own isolation. As the creature silently watches his unsuspecting neighbors, a plan begins to form in his mind, a desire to understand and perhaps become part of this world that fascinates him. Chapter 12. As the creature lay on his straw bed, sleep eluded him, and his thoughts lingered on the day's events. He was struck by the gentle manners of the cottagers he had observed, and although he longed to join them, the memory of the villagers' cruelty made him cautious. Resolving to remain in his hovel for now, he watched the cottagers closely, hoping to understand the motivations behind their actions. The young woman tended the cottage and prepared food, while the young man, Felix, worked outside. The blind old man spent his time playing an instrument or lost in thought. The creature noticed the deep love and respect the younger cottagers showed the old man, and their sorrow, which puzzled him initially, gradually revealed itself to be rooted in poverty. The family's sustenance came from their garden and a cow that provided little milk in winter. Moved by their kindness, the creature stopped stealing their food and found ways to help them, such as gathering wood overnight. Over time, the creature began to understand their language, learning words associated with familiar objects and the names of the cottagers. Agatha, Felix, and the old man, referred to as Father. Despite his growing understanding, the creature remained hidden, aware of his own monstrous appearance. The arrival of spring brought hope, as food became more plentiful and the cottagers' spirits lifted. With the changing season, the creature's desire to reveal himself and connect with the family grew stronger, spurred by the belief that kindness and language might win him acceptance despite his deformity. As he continued to learn and observe, the creature's hopes for acceptance and companionship began to blossom alongside the budding spring. Chapter 13. As spring enveloped the landscape in beauty, the protagonist observed the serene life of the cottagers, where joy and melancholy intertwined. The tranquil setting was disrupted by the arrival of a mysterious lady, veiled and on horseback, who instantly captivated Felix. Her presence lifted the melancholy that had shadowed Felix, transforming his sadness into a radiant joy. The lady, addressed as Sweet Arabian by Felix, brought with her a language unfamiliar to the cottagers. Her name was Saifi, and her arrival marked a turning point for the family, infusing their lives with happiness akin to sunshine dispelling morning mists. The protagonist, keenly observing from a distance, noted Saifi's attempts to learn the cottagers' language, which inspired him to do the same. As Saifi and the protagonist both progressed in their linguistic journey, they shared an unspoken bond of learning and discovery. During these days, the protagonist's world expanded with the teachings from Volney's Ruins of Empires, which Felix used to instruct Saifi. Through detailed explanations, Felix unveiled the intricacies of history, empires, and human society, sparking a whirlwind of emotions within the protagonist. He grappled with the duality of mankind, both noble and base, and questioned his own existence. The protagonist's reflections on human society, wealth, and rank deepened his sense of isolation and misery. He lamented his lack of family and his monstrous appearance, feeling forever barred from the warmth of human connection that he witnessed among the cottagers. Despite the pain, he admired their virtues and yearned to be part of their world. His contemplation of life, knowledge, and his own identity led him to a poignant realization of his solitude. Yet, as he continued to learn and observe, a new understanding began to take root, hinting at a transformation that would soon unfold in his quest for acceptance and belonging. Chapter 14. In Chapter 14, the story of Delacy and his family unfolds, revealing a tale of loss and betrayal. Delacy, once a respected and affluent man in Paris, lived with his children, Felix and Agatha, until their lives were disrupted by the imprisonment of a Turkish merchant, Safi's father. Felix, driven by outrage at the unjust sentence, vowed to free the merchant. In doing so, he caught the attention of Safi, who was grateful and enamored with him. The merchant, seeking to secure Felix's help, promised Safi's hand in marriage. Felix orchestrated a daring escape for the merchant, leading him and Safi from Paris to Italy. However, the merchant secretly planned to separate Safi from Felix, loathing the idea of her marrying a Christian. Meanwhile, the French authorities discovered Felix's role in the escape, imprisoning Delacy and Agatha. Felix returned to Paris to surrender, hoping to free his family, but they remained imprisoned and were eventually exiled, losing their fortune. The betrayal became evident when the merchant left Italy with Safi, sending Felix a meager sum as an insult. Heartbroken and impoverished, Felix and his family settled in a cottage in Germany. Safi, ordered by her father to forget Felix, refused to comply. When her father planned a hasty escape to Constantinople, Safi seized her chance, taking some jewels and money to follow Felix. Her journey was fraught with challenges, including the death of her attendant, but she eventually reached the cottage, reigniting hope and joy in Felix's heart. As Safi reunites with Felix, the stage is set for new beginnings, but the shadows of past betrayals linger, hinting at further trials. Chapter 15. In a tale of deep introspection and yearning for connection, the creature reflects on the influence of the cottagers and their virtuous lives, which inspire him to desire a role in society and to aspire to their benevolent qualities. A pivotal moment occurs when he discovers a portmanteau containing clothes and books such as Paradise Lost, Plutarch's Lives, and The Sorrows of Werther. These texts profoundly shape his understanding of humanity, imbuing him with both ecstasy and despair. Werther's reflections resonate with his own isolation, while Plutarch's heroes ignite in him a longing for virtue and an abhorrence of vice. However, it is Paradise Lost that strikes a deeper chord, as the creature identifies with both Adam's solitary existence and Satan's envy, questioning his own origins and purpose. As he deciphers Victor Frankenstein's journal, he learns the horrific details of his creation, deepening his self-loathing and sense of abandonment. Yet he holds hope that the cottagers, whom he observes with admiration, might accept him despite his hideous appearance. As seasons change, he waits for the right moment to reveal himself. Then, seizing an opportunity, he approaches the blind old man, Delacy, hoping to gain acceptance through conversation before the others return. Their exchange is filled with tension and hope as the creature confides his fears of rejection. Delacy offers kind words and encouragement, unaware of his visitor's true identity. Just as the creature is about to disclose his connection to the family, Felix, Safi, and Agatha return. Their reaction is one of horror. Agatha faints while Felix violently attacks the creature. Heartbroken and rejected, the creature flees, his dream of belonging dashed. With his hope shattered, the creature retreats to contemplate his next move, driven by a mixture of anguish and resolve. Chapter 16. In a tumult of rage and despair, the creature laments his cursed existence, pondering why he didn't end his life. Cursed, cursed Creator! Why did I live? He cries out, filled with rage and thoughts of revenge against the human race and his creator, Frankenstein. The creature wanders the woods, howling in anguish, until fatigue overtakes him, and he collapses in despair. As the sun rises, he hides in the underbrush, contemplating his situation. The creature reflects on his failed encounter with the Delacy family and resolves to return to the cottage to seek the old man's understanding. However, upon arrival, he discovers the family has fled in fear. In a fit of rage, he sets the cottage ablaze, watching it consumed by flames as he vows revenge against humanity and his creator. He decides to seek out Frankenstein in Geneva, using the knowledge he gained from lessons given to Safie. His journey is fraught with hardship as he travels only under the cover of darkness, enduring the harshness of late autumn. Along the way, he rescues a drowning girl, only to be shot by her rescuer in a misunderstanding, deepening his wrath against mankind. The wound heals slowly as he continues his journey, consumed by a desire for vengeance. Reaching the outskirts of Geneva, he encounters a young boy, William Frankenstein, whom he hopes to befriend. However, the boy's screams and revelation of his identity ignite the creature's fury. "Frankenstein, you belong then to my enemy," he exclaims, strangling the boy in a fit of rage. Discovering a portrait of the boy's mother, he is momentarily captivated by her beauty, but quickly consumed by jealousy and hatred. The creature plants the portrait on a sleeping woman, framing her for the murder. Tormented by his actions and the rejection he faces, he resolves to confront his creator with a demand. "My companion must be of the same species and have the same defects. This being you must create." As he waits for Frankenstein's response, a new chapter of his dark journey is about to unfold. Chapter 17. As the conversation unfolds, Victor Frankenstein finds himself bewildered by the demands of the creature before him. The creature insists, "You must create a female for me," arguing that a companion would grant him the peace and sympathy that he desperately craves. Yet, Victor, ignited by anger, refuses vehemently, declaring, "I do refuse it, and no torture shall ever extort a consent from me." The creature, undeterred, counters with a rationale steeped in his own misery and isolation. "I am malicious because I am miserable," he states, pleading for understanding from his creator, and highlighting the lack of sympathy he has received from the world. He warns Victor of the consequences of his refusal, suggesting that if he cannot inspire love, he will indeed inspire fear. This threat of inextinguishable hatred is both chilling and profound. Despite his initial resistance, Victor is momentarily swayed by the creature's logic, contemplating the justice and potential peace that might come from granting the creature's request. The creature promises a life of isolation and harmlessness in the wilds of South America, attempting to appeal to Victor's sense of fairness and compassion. Victor wrestles internally, torn between horror and sympathy, but ultimately agrees to the creature's demand on the condition that the creature swears to leave Europe forever. "I consent to your demand," Victor concedes, with the creature swearing by the heavens to uphold his end of the bargain. The creature departs swiftly, leaving Victor alone with his heavy heart and troubled thoughts. As night falls, Victor finds himself overcome by the weight of his decision, haunted by the stars and the wind as he makes his slow descent back to the valley. The next morning, weary and tormented, he returns to Geneva, facing his family with a resolve to undertake the daunting and abhorrent task he has committed to, setting the stage for a harrowing sequence of events to unfold. Chapter 18. Victor Frankenstein, tormented by the promise he made to the creature, struggles with the task of creating a female companion. His health improves, but the weight of his obligation looms large, causing fits of melancholy. Seeking solace, Victor often retreats to the lake, finding temporary peace in solitude. Observing Victor's improved spirits, his father proposes the idea of marriage to Elizabeth, suspecting Victor's unhappiness stems from love unfulfilled. "Do not suppose, however, that I wish to dictate happiness to you," his father urges, hoping to dispel the gloom over Victor's mind. Victor, however, is filled with dread at the thought of marrying Elizabeth before fulfilling his promise. He decides he must travel to England to gain the necessary knowledge to complete his work, using this as a guise to delay the marriage. His father, delighted by the prospect of Victor's journey, arranges for Henry Clerval to accompany him, believing this would aid in Victor's recovery. Victor agrees, seeing Henry's companionship as a buffer against the creature's potential threats. As Victor departs, Elizabeth, although supportive, is silently troubled by his absence, fearing for his well-being. The journey takes Victor and Henry down the picturesque Rhine, where Henry revels in the beauty of the landscapes, exclaiming, "This is what it is to live." Victor, however, remains haunted by his grim task, unable to share in Henry's joy. The journey continues through Holland to England, where Victor is set to confront his burdensome task. Yet, amidst the beauty of the Rhine and Henry's infectious enthusiasm, the shadow of the creature's promise looms ever larger, hinting at the trials that await in the land of philosophers. Chapter 19. As the narrative unfolds in London, Victor Frankenstein and his companion Henry Clerval immerse themselves in the city's intellectual and cultural offerings. Clerval eagerly seeks the company of renowned geniuses and scholars, while Victor remains primarily focused on his grim task, gathering information for the creation of a new being. Haunted by the past tragedies involving William and Justine, Victor finds little solace in social interactions, preferring solitude to the vibrant life around him. Despite his internal turmoil, he endeavors to mask his despondency to avoid hindering Clerval's joy and curiosity. Clerval, meanwhile, is absorbed by the prospect of aiding European colonization in India, buoyed by his knowledge of its languages and societies. As they explore England, Victor is tormented by the burdens of his promise and the impending doom he feels pressing upon him. Their journey takes them to Windsor, Oxford, and eventually northward to Scotland, prompted by an invitation from a friend in Perth. Victor's heart is heavy with dread, fearing the wrath of the creature he has abandoned, a shadow lurking over his every step. In the scenic landscapes of Scotland, Victor's internal struggle intensifies. While Clerval is enchanted by the environment, Victor is consumed by his obligation and the fear of the creature's vengeance. Despite the beauty surrounding him, Victor's heart remains trapped in a cycle of despair and guilt. Later, Victor decides to separate from Clerval, seeking solitude in the Orkneys to complete his dreadful task. Here, amidst the barren and rugged landscape, Victor confronts the gruesome nature of his work. His resolve wavers between urgency and foreboding as he endeavors to finish the creation, knowing the creature's reappearance looms ever nearer. As Victor's labor progresses, the shadows of doubt and fear grow darker, hinting at an ominous confrontation that lies ahead. Chapter 20. As the evening descended upon the laboratory, Victor Frankenstein found himself at a crossroads, teetering between completing his work or abandoning it altogether. As he pondered, a flood of reflections surged through his mind, reminding him of the dreadful consequences of his previous creation. He questioned the morality of bringing another creature into existence, fearing the potential horrors it might unleash. The prospect of a new race of beings, possibly more malevolent than the last, filled him with dread. His thoughts were abruptly interrupted by the sight of the creature, the very source of his turmoil, grinning maliciously through the window. With a surge of determination, Victor destroyed the unfinished creature, inciting the wrath of the monster who had been watching his every move. "Slave, I before reasoned with you, but you have proved yourself unworthy of my condescension," the creature seethed, vowing revenge. Despite the monster's threats, Victor remained resolute, declaring, "Begone! I am firm, and your words will only exasperate my rage." The creature, in a voice laced with ominous promise, warned, "I shall be with you on your wedding night." Victor's heart was heavy with the implications of this threat, especially as he considered the potential danger to his beloved Elizabeth. In the aftermath of this chilling encounter, Victor took drastic measures to eliminate all evidence of his work, casting the remains into the sea under the cover of night. Yet his actions left him adrift, literally and figuratively, as a sudden storm pushed his small boat far from shore. After hours adrift and plagued by worry for those he loved, Victor finally sighted land, offering a glimmer of hope. However, upon reaching the shore, he encountered hostility instead of hospitality, as the townspeople accused him of a murder he knew nothing about. As he was led away to face a magistrate, little did Victor realize that the true horror of his situation was only beginning to unfold. Chapter 21. Victor Frankenstein finds himself in front of a magistrate, accused of a murder he did not commit. Witnesses present evidence suggesting his involvement, particularly Daniel Nugent, who claims to have seen Victor's boat near the crime scene. The magistrate decides to observe Victor's reaction upon seeing the deceased's body, hoping to gauge his guilt. Victor, upon viewing the corpse, is horrified to recognize it as his dear friend, Henry Clerval. Overcome with grief and guilt, he collapses in convulsions, crying, "Have my murderous machinations deprived you also, my dearest Henry, of life?" Victor's collapse leads to a severe fever, leaving him bedridden for 2 months, haunted by the deaths he feels responsible for. His ravings, a mix of self-condemnation and pleas for destruction of the monster, are mostly understood only by Mr. Kerwin, the magistrate. Upon recovering, Victor finds himself in prison, tormented by the dark shadows of his past and the ever-present guilt over Clerval's murder. Despite his despair, Victor learns that Mr. Kerwin has shown him kindness during his illness, arranging for his care and trying to alleviate his suffering. One day, Mr. Kerwin visits Victor with news that a friend has come to see him. Initially fearing it might be the monster, Victor is relieved to discover it is his father. Their reunion brings Victor some solace, though he remains haunted by Clerval's image and the looming presence of his creation. As the trial approaches, Victor is freed when evidence proves his innocence, thanks to Mr. Kerwin's efforts. However, Victor's spirit is crushed, and he feels disconnected from life. His father's attempts to revive his spirits with talk of returning to Geneva and reuniting with loved ones do little to ease Victor's torment. Haunted by visions of his past and the specter of his monstrous creation, Victor resolves to return to Geneva, determined to protect his family and confront the creature, setting the stage for a tense and inevitable confrontation. Chapter 22. As the voyage ended and they arrived in Paris, Victor found himself overburdened by his own guilt and weariness. His father, unaware of the true nature of Victor's suffering, pushed him towards social interactions, hoping to lift his spirits. Yet, Victor, tormented by the havoc he had unleashed upon the world, rejected society, feeling disconnected and unworthy of human companionship. He lamented to his father, "How little do you know me? Human beings, their feelings and passions would indeed be degraded if such a wretch as I felt pride." His father, interpreting Victor's self-accusations as madness, shifted the conversation to avoid further distress. Time allowed Victor to regain some composure, but his heart remained heavy. Then a letter arrived from Elizabeth, expressing her anticipation of their reunion and hinting at the long-standing expectation of their marriage. Elizabeth's words, "Do you not love another?" probed gently into Victor's heart, seeking assurance that his love for her was true and unbound by familial obligation. Despite the shadow of the creature's ominous threat, "I will be with you on your wedding night," Victor resolved not to let fear influence his decision to marry Elizabeth, promising to reveal his dreadful secret after their wedding. Upon returning to Geneva, Elizabeth's presence provided Victor a brief solace. Her gentle presence soothed his tormented mind, though she too appeared changed, burdened by past sorrows. As wedding preparations commenced, Victor maintained an outward appearance of joy, even while internally wrestling with foreboding thoughts. The wedding day arrived, and as they embarked on a journey to Evian, Victor and Elizabeth shared moments of fleeting happiness. Elizabeth, sensing an undercurrent of unease, remarked, "Be happy, my dear Victor," while Victor clung to the serenity of that day, fearing the impending doom promised by the monstrous being he had created. As the sun set on their journey, the tranquility was a fragile veil over Victor's mounting dread, hinting at the calamity soon to unfold. Chapter 23. As the clock struck 8, Victor and Elizabeth arrived at the inn, their evening walk by the lake having been cut short by an approaching storm. The wind howled from the west, and the moonlight flickered between swift-moving clouds, casting an eerie glow over the tumultuous waters. Victor's mind, once calm, now brimmed with dread. His hand clutched a pistol hidden beneath his clothing as fear crept in with every sound in the darkness. Elizabeth, sensing his distress, asked, "What is it that agitates you, my dear Victor? What is it you fear?" He replied, "Oh, peace, peace, my love, this night, and all will be safe. But this night is dreadful, very dreadful." Victor urged Elizabeth to retire for the night, fearing for her safety, and continued his anxious patrol of the inn. Suddenly, a chilling scream pierced the air, and he rushed to Elizabeth's room only to find her lifeless on the bed, the victim of his monstrous creation. Overcome with despair, Victor collapsed beside her. Upon regaining consciousness, he was surrounded by terrified onlookers, but their horror paled in comparison to his own. He clung to Elizabeth's cold body, the grim reality of her death sinking in. At the window, Victor caught a glimpse of the creature, grinning maliciously before disappearing into the night. Victor's pursuit of the monster proved fruitless, and in his grief, he returned to Geneva. The news of Elizabeth's demise crushed his father, who soon succumbed to sorrow. Cast into a spiral of madness and imprisonment, Victor emerged with a singular purpose: to avenge his loved ones by destroying the creature he had unleashed upon the world. With a growing resolve, Victor sought the aid of a magistrate, recounting his harrowing tale. Though initially skeptical, the magistrate promised to help. Yet Victor, driven by rage and the desire for vengeance, prepared to take matters into his own hands, setting the stage for a relentless pursuit of the monster across unforgiving terrains. Chapter 24. Victor Frankenstein, consumed by rage and despair after the death of his loved ones, resolves to leave Geneva forever and pursue his monstrous creation. His journey becomes an endless pursuit fueled by revenge, traversing deserts and icy landscapes as he vows to destroy the creature. At the cemetery where his family rests, Victor swears an oath of vengeance, vowing to chase the monster until one of them perishes. His determination is met with a chilling laugh from the shadows, confirming the creature's taunting presence. Victor's pursuit leads him across Europe and Asia, into the wilds of Russia, and eventually the frozen expanses of the Arctic. Despite the harsh conditions of cold, hunger, and exhaustion, he is guided by a fierce spirit of vengeance. Occasionally, the creature leaves taunting clues and provisions, spurring Victor onward while mocking his suffering. The narrative shifts to Walton, who encounters Victor on his ship amidst the Arctic ice. Victor recounts his tragic tale and implores Walton to continue his quest for vengeance should he die before completing it. Walton, moved by Victor's story and the creature's existence, grapples with the moral implications of pursuing such a dangerous path. As Victor's health deteriorates, the crew of Walton's ship demands to return home. Despite Victor's impassioned plea for perseverance, Walton concedes to their demands. Before Victor succumbs to his injuries, he reflects on his failures and the creature's enduring malice. In a dramatic final scene, the creature appears, lamenting Victor's death and expressing a desire for his own end. He plans to journey to the remotest northern regions to perish in the flames of a funeral pyre. As he vanishes into the Arctic night, Walton is left to ponder the tragic tale and the haunting legacy of Victor's ambition and the creature's sorrowful existence. As the stormy winds of the Arctic faded into whispers, Victor Frankenstein's tragic tale reached its solemn conclusion. The creature, burdened by the weight of his own existence, vanished into the icy abyss, leaving behind a haunting legacy of ambition, creation, and the profound quest for understanding. Dear listeners, as the final echoes of this chilling narrative settle, we find ourselves reflecting on the timeless themes that Mary Shelley so masterfully wove into the fabric of this story. The dance between creator and creation, the relentless pursuit of knowledge, and the search for companionship in a world of solitude, each resonates with us in unique, powerful ways. If you found yourself captivated by this tale of Gothic horror and philosophical depth, we invite you to linger a little longer in our world of classic literature. By liking and sharing this journey, you help us keep alive the voices and stories of the past, ensuring they find their way to new ears and hearts. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss an opportunity to dive into another literary masterpiece. And of course, we would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell us which classic you'd like to explore next, whether it's the romance of the Brontes, the wit of Austen, or the adventure of Verne. Your suggestions are the compass that guides our literary voyage. Until next time, dear listeners, may your nights be as intriguing as Shelley's prose, and your days as enlightening as Victor's tragic revelations. Keep exploring, keep imagining, and most importantly, keep reading.